Hey guys, welcome back to Cody Tarot. I'm your tarot reader, Cody. So in today's Pick a Card, we are going to be doing what do people say about your future spouse? So this is going to give us a little info on what the gossip is about your future spouse, kind of what people say behind their back or how they perceive them. This is really good, especially if you want an indication for how you're going to meet your future spouse, or like if you're trying to find your future spouse, you can start to see what people say about certain people that is going to be like similar to how your future spouse is going to be, basically. So yeah, this is going to give us some information, and we're going to see what people say about them, what people say about your future spouse. How do people perceive your future spouse? What do they think their personality is like, basically? So we have 4 groups in front of us today, 4 crystal cards from my Crystal Wisdom deck. And I will be showing you the names of the, I'll be showing you the names of the crystals on the back of the cards and then putting them back down. And we'll be incorporating these in the reading as well. So we have our first crystal right here, group 1. We have Scolecite. Group 2, we have this pink crystal right here, which is Rhodochrosite. Then we have this yellowish crystal right here, which is Hiddenite. Then group 4, we have this red crystal right here, which is red Tourmaline. Then we have this kind of mixed brown crystal right here, which I believe is Agate. Then we have this green crystal right here, which is Chrysoprase. That's group 6. Group 7 is going to be this clearish blue crystal, which is Aquamarine. And our last group, group 8, is this kind of like purplish sheen crystal, which is actually Moonstone. So take all the time you need to pick your crystal or pick your card. You can pause the video here if you need to. Fun fact, I was looking for groups and I was not planning on doing more than 5, but I saw all 4 of these cards and I felt called to film a pile or film a reading for each one of these cards. So we're doing 8 groups today. So buckle in, especially if you're picking more than one pile. Say your spouse is multifaceted and you feel called to pick more than one pile. That's perfectly fine. But anyway, I'll give you a time here to pick your crystal. You can pause the video here if you need to. Without further ado, though, let's get on to group number 1 with the Scolecite. Hey, group 1, this is if you picked the Scolecite crystal. It's this kind of whitish crystal that literally looks like bleached black kyanite. I don't know if you know what black kyanite looks like, but it looks like bleached black kyanite. And I've actually have never seen Scolecite in real life or in the flesh or in the stone. Anyway, so your cards that came out were, your oracle cards were Virgin and Koala Spirit. And then I'm basically going to shuffle the tarot cards on camera today. We're going to pull and try and pull 5. So what do people say? We're going to find out what people say about your future spouse. I have 2 cards here. More closer to the bottom of the deck. We have King of Pentacles, 6 of Swords, 4 of Wands, the Lover's reverse, and 4 of Pentacles. Let's see. Okay. Okay, I think I have a clear idea of your future spouse and what people say about them. So first of all, with Scolecite right here, this card says peace, and it says I am an instrument of peace right below the word Scolecite. And I'm just seeing that basically as your person is very peaceful, and most people who encounter them will say that this is a very peaceful person. This is kind of the qualities that when people encounter them on the surface that they can notice right off the bat. You know, this person's very peaceful. Being an instrument of peace too, they might be a peacekeeper. They might be someone who kind of keeps the peace in their friend group or keeps the peace amongst people. In a discussion, people notice that this person kind of has this way of like keeping peace between different parties. If people start arguing, they might like play the diplomat basically. And that's one thing that's like quite interesting about your person. What people say about them is they're kind of like a peacekeeper. They kind of don't like arguments or fighting or anything like that. They believe this person wants peace at almost like all costs. Another thing people say about your future spouse is interesting. One of the stories or the themes in your future spouse's life that people attribute to them is with the Four of Wands here, we have a card about celebration and partying and like having a good time. So they're not afraid to let loose and have fun and have a good time. People like really admire them or this quality about them. But they also, some of those people in that group that are also having fun with them might be a little disturbed by the fact that they're so, with this Virgin card, that they don't partake in some of the more like risque activities of the fun group, right? So for example, if the group does any kind of like stuff that's more like dangerous or dark activities, or even this could even get into, not condoning this in any way, shape, or form, but if it gets into like drugs or like anything like that, whatever the group is doing like that, this person steps aside and doesn't do those things, but they still are able to have fun in that group. They're able to maintain their purity and their sense of self and their kind of like own inner values without sacrificing those for the kind of like joy ride that the group goes on. And so for some people, they see this as basically your future spouse not taking part in those group activities, not being as committed to the fun as everyone else is, you know? And sometimes that's one of those things where it's like misery loves company. Sometimes there might be a few people in this fun group that they're kind of like having fun as a way to escape their own problems. And if they don't see anyone else escaping their problems, they kind of like maybe pick on them or something like that. And I'm definitely saying that your future spouse right here is able to have fun in the group, but without kind of being in this kind of sense of commiseration or kind of like using like either drugs or alcohol as more of like an escape pattern, you know, like some of these other people in the group are. They have a very much a purity of mind. And so something that else is kind of mentioned about them that this group might mention that kind of knows your future spouse, they might mention that they kind of like, well, first of all, with Four of Pentacles, they might mention that they keep to themselves. Like they keep a lot of their values and beliefs and identity within and withdrawn from people. They don't really share it that much with people. We see that again with the Lovers in reverse. The Lovers is a card about two individuals revealing themselves fully to one another. You know, they're both kind of naked, and that just represents being totally, completely open and basically showing your full self to your partner. What we see here with the Lovers reverse just means that they don't really reveal themselves so easily. They're not the type to just kind of let it all hang out. You know, they're kind of they can kind of keep some secrets, and so it creates this sense of mystery around them, and so people see them as kind of mysterious. Yeah, a lot of people might say about your future spouse, they might say, well, I wish they open up more. I wish they would reveal more things. Because we also have the Four of Pentacles with this woman and Koala Spirit. Koala Spirit has this koala is closed off holding this stick, and this woman's closed off holding a purse. And it's no coincidence that both of these cards came out, and this person's kind of holding their cards with the koala, it's their food sources, and with the Four of Pentacles, it's this person's money. So you can think of their resources, them holding their resources close to the vest. They're not the most inclined to share about themselves or share their resources. So people probably talk about them basically being like, okay, well, they never like chip in, or they never pay for, you know, they never like treat me or something. You know, it's like one of those things. And one of the things is that other people say who are like probably not in need of this kind of like financial assistance or help with their resources, they kind of say they don't reveal themselves. They don't share their personality fully. They're not as open as I would, you know, as some of the other people that I know. You know, what's up with them? Why are they so closed off? They might say things like this. Another thing, when people get to know your future spouse a little bit better, like some of their closer friends, with the Six of Swords and the King of Pentacles, they realize that your future spouse has actually been through a lot. They've been through a lot of hardships in life. They've been through some really tough times. And with the Six of Swords, they've always managed to escape those tough times and come out as a brighter, more happier person on the other end of it, right? And so the people who really know your future spouse very well really look up to them for their like endurance in tough situations. The fact that they've really been through it. This can indicate that your future spouse has gone through anything like any kind of like maybe even a mental disorder or some kind of anxiety or depression or something like that. And they had to move away from that and move out of that and kind of reinvent themselves and kind of overcome their difficulties through time. You know, they've kind of been through a lot. But even on the surface, some of these people don't see that, you know, and it's interesting how they've even been through it. They have the, you know, wherewithal where they should be able to commiserate with these other people who are kind of like drowning their sorrows in kind of just like, you know, excessive hedonism, basically. But your spouse doesn't do that. They kind of work through these things with the King of Pentacles here. They work through these things and build a sense of knowledge about them, you know, and it's interesting. People might view this person as naive or not having a lot of information on the world, but in the areas that they've been through, their personal sufferings and experiences, they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of resources. They know, they have a lot of wisdom on where they've been and where they've come from. And with the right people, they can like talk to these people about these things or like educate them on different issues. So for example, if they had some kind of a mental disorder, say they suffer from anxiety or something, then they'll be able to like educate other people who are dealing with kind of anxiety and help them through basically their struggles by like showing them where they've come from, and also educate people who maybe aren't dealing with anxiety but don't have enough sympathy for people who have anxiety. So they might help them understand like, okay, this is what it's like for someone with anxiety. This is what it's like. This, you know, this is how it works for them. Hopefully you can understand that. And usually they're pretty good at getting their point across. This is another reason why with I Am an Instrument of Peace, they're very diplomatic. They have a way of sharing the opinion of one party or something that they've been through and championing that cause for like other people to realize that what they've been through or what another person has been through is valid and kind of should be accepted in the group. Spirit has a plan is interesting with Koala Spirit. This person's definitely spiritual, but they move very slowly with their spirituality. So they accumulate spiritual lessons, they accumulate spiritual knowledge in a very slow and steady pace, basically. Yeah, it's quite interesting with the Six of Swords and the Four of Wands, how they have this kind of like hardships that they've had to deal with. And then people can see this, like their close friends to them can see this, and they talk about this about them, like, man, they've really been through it, you know? So to a lot of people, basically, like this person, their close friends are really their saving grace, because I see a lot of people, you know, basically criticizing them for not doing certain things that the group does, but really they have a reason why they don't do these things. They don't indulge in excessive hedonism or bad habits or destructive behavior, because they know that on an internal level they're already kind of like self-combusting anyway, and they're kind of have that either anxiety, depression. I'm sensing anxiety for this pile, that your person might have a little bit of anxiety about them. But people know that they've been through it, basically, and they've been through these hard times, and they just admire the fact that they can still let loose and have fun and have kind of like a carefree attitude, even though they've been through so many serious things. Yeah, this person doesn't just open up to anyone. They open up, the people that are their close friends that will know this, and their close friends might share this fact about them to other people. But as far as them discussing these issues with the Lovers reversed and the Four of Pentacles, they keep all of this very close to the vest. This person is someone who does not want to get hurt. And because of that, because they hold all that within, people can see them as naive or almost like virginal, basically. Very cool. So that was your reading if you picked the Scolecite. So this is what people say about your future spouse. So this also might help you if you are looking for them yourself and you want to tune into the gossip around you so you can find out who this person is. Anyway, so if you like that reading, feel free to like or comment below. If you really like this reading, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post pick a cards like this once every 1 to 2 weeks. And with that said, we're going to move on to group 2 with the Rhodochrosite. Hey, group 2, this is if you picked the Rhodochrosite. I'll show you the color of that crystal right there. It's that like gentle pink color. And we have Rhodochrosite, which says self-acceptance on it. I already drew the oracle cards for you today, which is Student and Deer Spirit. I'm going to be shuffling and drawing your tarot cards right now. 2 over here. And pull 2 right here. Okay, let's flip over your tarot cards. We have 8 of Pentacles. Oh, that makes sense with the student card. The Chariot reversed. The Queen of Pentacles upright. And the Ace of Swords upright. And the Nine of Swords upright. Okay, let's get into your future spouse. Okay, so first we have Rhodochrosite, which says self-acceptance. I fully accept myself and know that I am worthy of great things in life. One thing that people see about your future spouse, and that's coming through really strongly, is they see your future spouse as like very comfortable with themselves. So no matter where your future spouse goes or who they communicate with, they see them as very comfortable. They observe them as being kind of like this very comfortable, easygoing type of person. A few things to start with Bring a Gentle Touch, Dear Spirit, and Queen of Pentacles. People view your future spouse as very caring and nurturing, basically. When your future spouse interacts with people, people get the impression that they're being taken care of, or that your future spouse is almost like a motherly figure to them. I definitely see this very strongly with acquaintanceships, right? Like people who are just kind of meeting your future spouse or know them on the periphery. They get this vibe that they're very nurturing, caring, and almost mothering. That's kind of like the vibe that all the acquaintances kind of speak about your future spouse, kind of how they talk about them. I see that your future spouse's family sees them as kind of like lazy. They talk about them being kind of like lethargic or having low energy or not being able to get motivated to do different things. They see them as like kind of unmotivated, but I'm also seeing that there's some elements with the student card and the 8 of Pentacles that like the people who work with your future spouse or, hold on, I gotta take off these bracelets. They're bothering my wrist today for some reason. Anyway, so with student and 8 of Pentacles, the people who work with your future spouse, they're kind of looking at your future spouse as someone who's really dedicated to like basically openness to lifelong learning and humility and devotion to knowledge. They see them as focused on learning. I'm definitely seeing for a lot of you, your future spouse has been in school for quite a while, or they're really studious and they're kind of intelligent as far as like not educating themselves. And with 8 of Pentacles, I definitely see a long period of time where they've had this kind of like practice makes perfect. They know how to kind of work in different environments, and they know how to like use one method over and over again to bring like the best results for themselves. Yeah, I feel like most of the people who know your future spouse know them through some kind of like learning environment or student thing. Your future spouse might be involved in like education clubs, like clubs where they're learning different things about science or learning different things, maybe like a movie club, like where you're learning different things about different movies or something like that. And there's kind of like an element that your future spouse is always educating themselves, always learning different things. So even if they're not a part of a formal institution, a formal system of education, they might just like look on their phone and be constantly researching different types of information. This person's going to have a lot of like facts on board in their mind, basically to use and have at their disposal at any various different time. And basically they know how to work this kind of like, they have like basically like a couple methods in their arsenal that they like basically live by or go by. And they know when to pull out these different methods to either learn something new, to take care of someone, to get something done. They have these kind of methods that are go-to ready methods that never really fail them. They kind of learned early on that like these different ways of using their methods work for them. This person could be seen as set in their ways, but I'm not saying that people see that about them so much, is that they kind of see that those certain ways that they're set in really work for them. You know, they're kind of like, wow, how do it's almost like this, your people view your future spouse as very reliable because they're always like know the exact right way to accomplish a given task, basically. With Ace of Swords over here, your future spouse is very brilliant. Like, people are very surprised, and this is kind of a surprising thing that people get to see every once in a while with your future spouse. So not everyone gets to see this, but the people that know them or are really close to them and have seen them day in and day out, it's like every once in a while, like every month or so, your future spouse will just say something that is completely brilliant. Completely brilliant, comes from a place of clarity, an enlightened thought, a true nugget of knowledge about how everything just works, basically. And like they'll drop one of these nuggets of knowledge and it just amazes the people around them. So your future spouse really gets this amazed reaction as far as like saying certain brilliant things in like a group of people. And this can range, not just a group of people, but this can range from their family members to acquaintances. It just almost like, it's like every so often they just say something brilliant, and whoever's around, it doesn't matter who they are, they just turn and they're like, whoa, that was really intelligent. How did you think of that perspective? Like, that's just beyond, like, that's so true to the situation, you know? So people are definitely see them as like that. Yeah, I also see with the Ace of Swords being next to the Nine of Swords, they have this way of when they drop those little nuggets of information, you know, those little pieces of wisdom, they don't do it all the time, which is kind of a sad thing because they really could help a lot of people. What happens really is when they do this, they kind of drop that nugget of information. With the Nine of Swords here, we have a card about kind of like anxieties, and you see these birds in this card, right? And there's one bird kind of like disappearing while the other birds are there. They have a way of kind of like making people's anxieties disappear with these nuggets of thought. Even though they're very brilliant and stuff, they touch that person's core and they kind of clear up some things. It's kind of like, if you look at this woman, she's having these thoughts come out of her head, but there's this beautiful light shining out of it. And you see that bird flying away, just another image of that anxiety moving on or moving away from that person. Yeah, they have a very brilliant mind, basically. And all of this is fueled by their study and their education and their way of knowing how to use specific methods and specific ways of getting things done to accomplish things. People see them as having kind of like a strong sense of self-confidence as well. It's quite amazing because most people, the acquaintances and stuff that kind of know them, kind of see them as this kind of like caring persona. But in reality, this person's actually very intelligent and very hardworking. It's just funny because their family, kind of with this Chariot reverse, they're not that hardworking at home. They kind of take an easy approach when they're at their home life, and they kind of let their family kind of wait on them for a change, you know, because they're always taking care of everyone else out in the world. So when they're at home, their family kind of, you know, takes care of them, and they might like bicker a little bit and be like, you know, you're so lazy, or you're so, you know, stuff like that. It's all in like good fun. I don't see their family like thinking this really seriously about them, or else I think that they would like pick up and like help out around the house and stuff like that. But I'm definitely seeing that there's kind of this like laid back attitude that they have with their family and with their close ones, where they feel like they don't have to really take care of too much stuff in their environment. They like to take a more laid back approach like that. Yeah, this person really is very caring, and a lot of people view this person has a lot of people saying very positive things about them. On one hand, they are very gentle and nurturing and very like caring in their environment. And on the other hand, they really know how to like make use of knowledge, and kind of they have a way of accumulating knowledge that makes knowledge like able to like help them get things done in the outer world using like specific certain methods to achieve these things, you know, and like that's all fueled and backed by their knowledge. And then, you know, that extra little kicker with those special little nuggets of like wisdom that they drop on people, you know, it's kind of like they, you know, they'll say something and it'll just be like mic drop, you know, and everyone's like, whoa, they just said that. That's so trippy. That's so crazy. And then it like cures little bits of anxiety within everyone. One thing I do want to mention with the Queen of Pentacles that I just kind of thought about, which is another association I have with this card. Queen of Pentacles is a card that can focus on the past and learning lessons from the past and appreciating the past. So this person might be focused on learning lessons from their past and also bringing those to light. So not only just accumulating information and knowledge in kind of like the traditional sense, or through a school system, or through, you know, just studying on their phone, or even like just watching YouTube videos, watching YouTube tutorials and learning stuff like that. And kind of accumulating all this knowledge for things. They might also be focused on the lessons of the past and knowing things from the past and how that sheds light on the future, basically. All right. I think that about covers it for this group. If you like that reading, feel free to like or comment below. If you really like this reading, subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here, and we'd love to have you. So moving on to group 3 with the Hiddenite. Hey, group 3, this is if you pick the Hiddenite. I'll show you your crystal right here. It's this kind of like nice little yellowish crystal. Your crystal says gratitude. Your oracle cards say child, orphan, and otter spirit, you are never alone. And so let's pull your tarot cards right now and we'll get into your reading. Wow, we have... Those 2 cards came up in the first group, actually. Let's see, pull 3 more. 1, 2. I'll pull the middle one from the middle of the deck. Okay, so let's see here. Your tarot cards are 4 of Cups. We got 10 of Cups reversed. Page of Swords, 4 of Wands, and 6 of Swords. Okay, so your future spouse has some pretty cute energy, I might say. But let's get into the reading. There is kind of like these 2 cards, and there's just a few. There's like an overarching like main theme here. So let's get into it. First, we have child, orphan, independence based on learning to go it alone, conquering fear of surviving. We have otter spirit, you are never alone. So your future spouse, interestingly enough, the way people view your future spouse is there's kind of a few stages they view them in, that they'll say different things in, because they kind of repeat these kind of stages in their life. Your future spouse, on one hand, will start like when they're interacting with people, even like strangers and stuff, like I want to say sometimes strangers, but maybe not always strangers, but they tell a lot of people this. They'll mention that they're lonely or they have a sense of loneliness. And I think a lot of people feel for them right off the bat, because I feel like when they say these things to these people, they seem so like sincere about it, and they are sincere about it. They do feel lonely. And it's interesting because with you are never alone, people really just want to be your future spouse's friend, right? It's interesting how your future spouse has this thing, and this is what people say about them. So I guess take this with a grain of salt, because there's probably other stuff going on underneath the surface that we're not getting in this particular reading. But your future spouse kind of has this thing where they, say they're lonely, but then people kind of, when they find out that your future spouse actually has lots of friends, right? That they're actually never alone. They actually have tons of people around them in their life. And your future spouse is actually very playful and easy to get along with, and really is like very like a fun-loving person, just like an otter is, they kind of swim around, dive deep, grab some things, and, try to crack them open, stuff like that. Anyway, your future spouse is very playful, and people have mentioned that. People say, oh yeah, they're so playful, they're so, loving and stuff. And people are always trying to give your future spouse energy. They're always trying to give them care, attention, even sometimes gifts or affection. Your future spouse, let's just put it this way, is really popular, and people might even point that out, that your future spouse is very popular. It's just that people wouldn't guess it upon communicating with them, because your future spouse talks and acts as if they're kind of always alone, or they don't have any friends, or they don't, like, people aren't just kind of like, how do I put this? They almost feel unsatisfied with the people that they have in their life, even though everyone in their life is just showing them so much love, care, and attention. But yeah, people might mention this about them, or people say this about them, like, yeah, they're always talking about how lonely they are, but they're surrounded by people. Like, how can this person be lonely? They have tons of friends. And this is kind of, in a way, a superficial perspective, because sometimes loneliness is not just about how many friends we have, or how many connections we make, or how easily other people can feel connected to us. Sometimes it's about our internal feelings and what we're actually going through on the inside, basically. Yeah, with Four of Cups, people might often say to you about your future spouse, they might say like, okay, people are offering them all these things. People are offering them gifts, their time, their energy. Like people want to be their friend. But with the Four of Cups, if you know anything about the Four of Cups, it's this person who doesn't want to accept the cup that is offered to her, basically, or him, depending on what sex or gender your future spouse identifies with. But yeah, people don't want to, your future spouse doesn't accept these offers, basically. And people kind of are like, well, everyone's trying. Like, I don't know why they can't complain about being lonely if everyone wants to be their friend. You know, that's what some people say about this person. You know, a lot of people mention too that they think that this is just an outside perspective, because I actually think your future spouse is pretty like, keeps hidden with, it's funny we have the word Hiddenite, about their family ties, their family situations, and even their close friends. Your future spouse is kind of like really big on like keeping everyone in their acquaintances like happy, and kind of like, how do I put this? Everyone in their acquaintance, their bigger circle knows like everyone else in the bigger circle, right? But your future spouse actually keeps their private friends and their close friends hidden from sight. And it's almost, people wonder if this person even comes from any kind of a family life at all. They give the impression that, you know, they don't even come from kind of like any kind of family, whether it was a loving family, a difficult family. It's almost like they've always been on their own, or they've always been kind of struggling on their own and had to go at it alone. And so people oftentimes wonder with your future spouse, and they say like, have you ever met their mom or dad? Or have you ever like gotten to know them? Or, you know, did they, or if they have met their mom or dad, they say, did they seem close to them? They don't even seem that close to their parents. Like maybe that's why they're alone. You know, everyone's trying to figure out this big mystery of why your future spouse feels lonely, even though like people love the crap out of their personality. They're so likable. They're so lovable. But it's just one of these things where they still feel lonely. And people kind of like focus on that a little bit. Anyway, with Page of Swords, another thing people say that like get really close, speaking of the people that are close to your future spouse, people, the closer they get to them, if they break through that acquaintance barrier, they see your future spouse as very, very intelligent and very careful, very calculated. They don't do something just kind of out of the blue or on impulse. They're very, very calculated and careful with how they make their moves in the world. And also with these light bulbs and stuff, they're very inspired all the time. They have a lot of inspired ideas. With this woman with the book, they might actually read a lot, and people might mention that about them, that they read a lot, or they have something about, they know a lot about books or any kind of information that they're reading a lot. Yeah, for some people, it's even interesting because with these birds here and flying around by this woman's head, it's almost like they view your future spouse as kind of like almost like sometimes some people might view them as like their only friends are their thoughts, right? Like, oh, they live in their head, or their only friends are their thoughts, you know? They don't really like fully connect with other people because they're always feeling lonely because, you know, their true friends are like in their mind or in their head. One other thing about your future spouse, I already mentioned this, that they're very like playful. They have a playful nature. They really love to have fun. Even though they feel lonely or they talk about being lonely, you're often seeing them like constantly laughing, constantly having fun, constantly like getting along with the people around them. People think that this person is such a good time. It's just funny. There's this main centered theme of like, they're just perplexed. Like, why does this person seem so lonely? Because there's a lot of fun and excitement that happens in this person's life. With the Six of Swords, this just indicates that your future spouse has difficulty moving on from situations or friend groups and kind of leaving them behind. One thing here that's the most interesting thing about this is that your future spouse's friend groups are kind of always expanding. Like they're always, like that acquaintance ring that I was talking about earlier, it's constantly getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this future spouse has such a fun, playful attitude that like people just kind of constantly jump in and like join this big party, you know? It's just that, you know, whenever people are just shocked because, you know, they lead with this loneliness thing. And once they get to know their lifestyle, they're like, how can they be lonely? And it's kind of sad too, because I feel like as people get to know your future spouse, they sort of forget about this fact that your future spouse mentioned the lonely thing. And they just kind of have fun and like get along with them very well. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, back to the Six of Swords. Basically, with the Six of Swords, your future spouse doesn't like to move on or cut off any friendships. As their friendship circle keeps expanding, they want to keep all their acquaintances, keep all their friends. And it really does stem from this feeling that they actually do feel like they're alone, you know, and it's almost like they fill up that loneliness almost with groups of people, groups of friends and social circles and parties and stuff like that, because they don't want to feel that loneliness, you know. The one thing that's really like their key to success, and this is kind of a little like hidden gem. I think it says Hiddenite, I said hidden gem. Anyway, it says, I am grateful and this loving energy fills every single cell of my being. I think your future spouse, one of the lessons that they're here to learn in this life is to learn to let the loving energy like penetrate all their defenses, right? Let the loving energy in and fill them up it to the core. You know, let it hit that bottom part of their personality so it can, they're kind of like gratitude can come out. And I think once they have a sense of gratitude, like all those friends, all those acquaintances, all those people that are in their life, you know, once they have this sense of gratitude, they'll feel less of the need to like share these lonely feelings with others and bring them in as far as like bringing in new friends and acquaintances, and they can feel grateful in themselves and feel less alone. They can actually be alone and feel less alone. That's what I'm trying to say. Very cool. Yeah, so that was your reading, group 3, if you picked the Hiddenite. If you like that reading, like or comment below. If you really like this reading, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here at Cody Tarot, and we would love to have you. Your future spouse sounds wonderful. Bring them along when you meet them. Anyway, we're moving on to group 4 with the red Tourmaline. Hey, group 4. This is if you pick the red Tourmaline, which says passion. We have your oracle cards, which are Don Juan and Beaver Spirit. Lay a solid foundation. And I'm going to draw and pull your tarot cards right now. Right in the middle. We have the 8 of Wands flipped out. I'm going to draw 2 more for over here. And we'll draw 2 more for over here. Okay, let's see what your cards are. We have Queen of Cups, the Sun reversed, 8 of Wands, 10 of Cups reversed, and 6 of Swords. Oh man, this 6 of Swords card loves coming up in these readings. I'll tell you that. It's been in 2 piles already. Okay, let's get into your reading. So first, let's start with the Don Juan card, which says spotlights your positive, seductive qualities. This is basically just indicating, and with red Tourmaline, passion, I'm the embodiment of passion. Your future spouse is so... how do I put this? They've got intense sex appeal and people know it. Like they are a very attractive person and people are aware of it and talk about it quite frequently. They're always saying like, wow, man, aren't they hot? Oh yeah, I don't believe it. Like, this will be the type of person where, if you have 2 friends and they're like checking out guys or girls together and they'll look at the person and like, whoa, that is someone I'd like to get with, and another person will be like, yeah, definitely. Like, I agree with that. This person is in high demand as far as like, people like liking them or wanting to be with them or wanting to hook up with them. Basically, like this person is really, really seductive. We have with the 8 of Wands here too, this person is also very quick-witted and quick on their feet. They're quick at orienting and changing in like fast-paced situations. With the embodiment of passion, they definitely have this passionate side to them. So I can definitely see that people see them as very passionate and people see them as very... like an intense energy, but an intense energy that's very pleasurable. Something that they have that some people might notice, and this is just a couple people might notice this, with the Sun card in reverse, this person that is your future spouse, a lot of people might mention that they're a little pessimistic. This can be one of 2 things. This can be them actually being really realistic, and their realism is actually mistaken for pessimism. Or this could be on the flip side of that they have more like a negative, like kind of like a a sense of humor that's kind of like taking the form of kind of like complaining. Like, it's like, I don't know if you guys have experienced this before, that some people who they kind of like complain about things and it's actually really entertaining or really hilarious. This is kind of their vibe that they have. With Queen of Cups, this is one thing that's like quite interesting about your person, is people view them as like pretty intuitive. And also like hands off. Like, if you look at this woman with her hands off the bowl and the bowl's just like floating in front of her, this is the type of person who, like, when they're with their friends and stuff, they let their friends do like whatever they want. You know, this is the type of person who kind of like, if their friends are like, hey, I'm gonna go do this, and they're like, go for it, do it, I don't care. You know, like they're really the type of person that like gives the freedom of like they give tons of freedom to their friends and their relatives and their close ones. I think even if they have, even if they were going to have children, they would give a lot of freedom to their children. They would let their children basically live very like kind of like an unstructured kind of like, they'd grow up kind of like with without too many structures. I'm sure this person is going to be an excellent parent and will be an excellent parent, but they're very hands off as far as like letting people do what they want when they want to do it. You know, I think they value that too. They value like the freedom to go and do whatever they want when they want. Which is interesting. One message I got at the very beginning of the reading for a lot of you is because this person's so passionate and seductive and they could have so many potential admirers, right? I got a strong message that they're going to actually be incredibly loyal to you. So if you're ever concerned or worried that this person could cheat on you or is going to like, you know, go somewhere else or be with someone else or something like that, this person, I got a strong message in the beginning of the reading, incredibly loyal to you. And I will get with that with the beaver card. That's like really proven in these cards over here. But as far as like their friends and acquaintances are concerned, this person's a good time. They're a lot of fun. It's interesting we got the sun card here because it kind of has a double meaning. It's like on one hand, the sun upright is kind of like a card about positivity, joy, optimism. But because it's in reverse, it's just saying that their pessimism or kind of their pessimistic outlook on life actually creates a lot of positivity in their friends and the groups that are around them. With Queen of Cups, it's just this hands-off attitude, right? Where they kind of like, I'm also seeing the Queen of Cups is also kind of like a card about projecting into the future and kind of like analyzing where you're at in the present to like go into the future. And that's where their intuition comes in, is they have a really strong intuition for visualizing things that are going to happen in the future. Another little fun fact, this person might love water and might love water activities. Like they might be a like solid swimmer, or they might like to go to the ocean a lot, or they might like just like to be in the pool, or they like to take like showers or baths or something like that. They really like water. One thing that I'm seeing here, which is interesting, because right here we have kind of like a Don Juan, which kind of indicates like a more flighty, all over the place, like seductive, like I'm just going to court whoever I want kind of vibe, you know? And we kind of get that vibe that people kind of are always attracted to this person. They're always interested in them. But with Beaver Spirit, lay a solid foundation, and 10 of Cups, this person did not come from a good family background. This person struggled with their family. They've had family conflicts, and people that know them know this. If people have like seen them with their relatives or their family, they know that they have difficulty getting along with their family. And this could be a few things. This could be, mainly it's one of those things where it's like, it's just kind of like, how do I put this? It's kind of like a timing thing is the best way to describe it. Their family is like on a certain level and they're on another level, and there's just a difference in timing. Like maybe, you know, they're feeling really relaxed and they want to play a video game, but their mom, you know, they're home for the holidays and their mom's like, you know, yeah, I need you to clean the such and such, right? And then there's like a conflict there because they almost want to do things on their time when they want, you know, and they're very hands off, right? They expect the same with them, and maybe their family's kind of more like takes control of their life and is trying to like focus on making them do certain things at a certain time. So with 10 of Cups, we see that they have a little bit of family difficulties, but it really inspires them to want to lay a solid foundation for their own family. And this is where it gets a little interesting, because on one hand, I told you they had a hands-off approach, right? But at the same time, they want to make sure that they have all the resources and security and structure so that it's almost like a mama bird who builds a beautiful nest, right, in a tree or whatever. And the birds, like birds can fly wherever they want, right? They have loads of freedom, right? The little individual baby birds can fly around and do whatever they want, but they know that this solid foundation always exists for them, right? This solid home environment always exists for them. And so one thing that people really like take note of is that this person is kind of like, even though they're so passionate and seductive and in a way like robust in their sexuality, people really like the fact that they can come back to them, and there's almost this attitude of like that they're gonna be there, that there's this kind of sense of reliability. You know, they have this hands-off approach, but they also have this presence that's reassuring, that's kind of like, you know, I'm gonna be here. And people mention this about them, people talk about this about them. So a lot of people who know their family life don't really give it too much thought or attention, because they know that they also have this attitude of themselves where they're kind of like providing that support for people, like low key. Six of Swords is interesting because I had trouble placing this at the beginning of the reading, but it's interesting because it just represents that they have this kind of mild depression, if that makes sense, that's kind of underlying them. And it's getting referred to again in the Sun card in reverse. Even though they're this very passionate, intense individual and they have like a pretty good sense of humor, there are moments where they get really down and depressed and they feel like they need to vacation or move around. Basically, the Six of Swords indicates this woman who's kind of sad and she's going on this vacation. So don't be surprised if your future spouse in the future like invites you out on a trip or something, but when they're starting the trip out and they like pick you up from your house or something, that they're a little depressed at the beginning of the trip, and then as the trip goes on, they get more and more happier and they kind of refuel based on that trip. They're not the type to like plan a trip because they feel good. They plan the trips because they feel bad. And then as the trip goes on, they refuel their energies based on that trip. So they're kind of in this kind of position where when they get down in the dumps and they feel like maybe the pessimism's getting them too down and they're feeling a little depressed, they might actually go on a little trip and plan a little vacation. And that's something that their friends say about them that they don't really know too much about them, is that they say like, you know, why don't we, whenever we go on a trip, we plan a trip somewhere, you know, what's his face or so-and-so is in a really bad mood, your future spouse I'm talking about, is in kind of like a sour mood, but then they're always happy when the trip ends, you know? And so they kind of like know this about them, and so they'll say this to them, you know, if their future spouse is like complaining or someone's like, why are they grumpy? They'll be like, to another acquaintance, they'll be like, oh, don't worry, they'll recover by the end of the trip. Like they'll be happy by the time we get back, you know? Like they'll be recovered. The trip will fuel their happiness, you know? Yeah, you got a really passionate future spouse on your hands. Really a robust character for sure. Yeah, I really like that they're taking a negative situation. They're really learning the life lessons from that. I think people see that with them and they realize that like this person, it's not just like blood that is like their family. It's basically acquaintances. It's basically their friends. It's whoever they let into their inner circle that they decide is their family. That whole phrase that family is more than blood, that applies to them. They kind of have made their own family from the ground up. You know, they kind of collected their friends themselves, and they really trust the people that they've had in their life for a very long time. Very cool. All right, well, if you like that reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like this reading, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post pick-a cards like this once every 1 to 2 weeks. With that said, really enjoyed having you here. If you do subscribe, you're welcome. And now I'm rambling. Anyway, let's move on to group 5 with the Agate. Hello, group. What are we at? Is this group 5? Is this group 4? This is group 5. Group 4. No, group 5. Yeah. Group 5 with the Agate. This is your reading. Your oracle cards today are Visionary and Vulture Spirit. And Agate says healthy body. So we're going to pull some tarot cards now, and then we'll get into your reading. Let's see. We'll pull one more from here. Okay. Let's get into your cards. Your first card is the World. Your second card is the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. a lot of major arcana. Your third card is the Star reversed. And you have the Tower upright. Whoa, that's a lot of major arcana. And you have the Three of Swords in reverse. Okay, so we are just going to get into the reading. There's still some parts about this reading that I'm not quite sure about, but I think it'll unfold as we go, and we'll get that information as I continue reading. But let's get into it. So first of all, with visionary, something that people say about your future spouse is they're incredibly visionary. They have this way of seeing what's to come without knowing how it will get there. One thing and how this can manifest is that they could be very trendy. They could actually have like an eye for styles or different things that are going to come to pass, as far as like this could involve like politics, styles, internet trends. Like they might know what's going to be who's the next like popular celebrity. They might have an eye to who is going to be like on top of the situation in the social world before that person even gets there. You know, they might know the trend before it happens. You know, a good example of this, I had a friend a while ago who, you know, was really into White Claws, right? And she was on the White Claw bandwagon before anyone else was. And so she would always have these White Claws, and just she swore by the White Claws and stuff like that. So that'd be one of those situations where they're like really ahead of their time, basically, in either their fashion or politics or just anything like that. Another thing, interestingly enough, about this person has incredible health, right? But they may suffer some setbacks. We see that here with the Wheel reverse, the Star reverse, and the Tower upright. This person may suffer some disasters or setbacks in their life. So one thing they talk about with this person is they mention how incredibly unlucky they are. They might say like, whoa, can you believe what happened to them? That's really tough. Like, how are they going to handle that? Like, I couldn't handle that. Oh man, I'm glad I'm not them. You know, people are kind of like looking at your spouse because they kind of don't have they have good things happen in their life, but when disaster hits, it hits them pretty hard. And it's like, for some reason, everyone knows about it. Everyone knows about the worst thing that happened to them. They're always like, oh man, did you hear that they, maybe I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe they like jumped off a ledge and it was a little further down than they thought, and so they break their leg. And so they're that person that has the broken leg, and people feel bad for them. They're like, oh no, poor you, They garner a lot of sympathy from others, basically, is what I'm trying to say, because they're in such unfortunate situations, and people really feel for that. People feel for that. People are either glad they're not them, or they're actually actively trying to help them out in these situations. Part of this comes from the fact that even though your person's very, very visionary, right? People might say like, oh man, I remember when so-and-so liked that person. That was really a long time ago, But the thing is, with the Star card in reverse, they might not know the exact next step to take. So their closer acquaintances are going to know this about them. Like when it comes to businesses or forms, or like even like tax forms, or like signing documents or something like that, they don't quite know the next step to take. They don't know the next procedure to go to, the next place to go to. So we have the Star reversed here, just indicating the fact that they don't have the next dot that they're connecting onto the path. They see way far ahead. They're like looking at the Milky Way as like a big picture, but they're not traveling from star to star within that to make to travel that path. With the Wheel of Fortune, they just have periods of bad luck in their life. And that's something that people notice about them. They're just like, wow, this person man, that sucks for them. Like, didn't they just have something bad happen to them last week? Like, yeah, they did. I think they did. With the Tower card here, this just indicates that this person is always going through a transformation, right? They're always going through a psychological and kind of like even maybe a physical transformation. So this might be changing their body. This might be changing their looks. This might be changing how they think, how they dress, how people perceive them. There's this element that these shakeups are on one hand very like hard for them, because it's like sometimes they feel like they're forced to change, or they have to change their personality by force to either blend in with their environment, or because they like can no longer stand the humdrum of the daily routine that they're living with, you know? And then on the other hand, we have the World card over here, just indicating, first of all, their intelligence, because I'm looking at all these geometric shapes around her, and I'm just seeing that this person, like, first of all, with the Visionary and the World card, this person really has an eye for the future and how things are going to unfold, you know? And with the World card here, they're very aware of world events and like politically, like different countries and things like that. They're very aware of everything that's happening in the world. But it also, this card with the World and the Tower, it's kind of cycling through like this, basically indicating that these changes that they go through, these kind of like where they dig into themselves and they get into these darker transformations, you know, and they come out on top. Their new personality, at least for a short while, makes them feel like they're on top of the world, you know. In all fairness, they start suffering more often or having more bad luck or not being able to see those next steps ahead when their personality is kind of wearing thin. This is kind of the person that has to constantly reinvent themselves or else they stagnate. And it's actually really bad and unhealthy for them if they don't constantly reinvent themselves. One of the things here we have, nothing is wasted. So they really, the thing is when they reinvent themselves, they take the energy from their environment and they pull it into them, and they reinvent themselves. So because they have such this eye for the future, right? They know where the world is heading and they know what in the world needs to be used up, basically. They pull this into them and create a new persona, and it creates this feeling of peace and completion and refuels their vision, so to say. So people, I'm feeling like more close people to them might realize this. Close people to them realize this process that they have to undergo. They realize they change their personality, they change their identity every so often, and they become a new person. I would say people who are on the periphery or people who are further away from them, like acquaintances and stuff, might be a little like disoriented by this and might not understand it. They might see them as kind of mercurial. The fact that they're kind of changing too much and kind of changing all the time without purpose or reason, it might be frustrating to a lot of people. And it's interesting because I definitely see that this person, well, they for sure change for the better. Every change is for themselves to help themselves grow and develop and change their personality in just a slightly different way or in completely different way sometimes. In order to like adapt to the world and to get a new message across, right? They're also kind of like a mirror to the world, you know? So they kind of show the world what's to come by basically setting the activities in motion based on like their appearance or their attitudes or things like that. They're definitely a type of person who's really good at like, they can project out onto the world, but more so than that, it's not so much projection as they can read the signs around them, you know? Nothing is wasted shows that when they incorporate and they develop this new personality, they take every corner of every aspect of things that are basically underlooked or no one's looking at or no one's noticing, and they incorporate it into their personality. They're kind of this hodgepodge of like all different pieces of kind of what has been overlooked in the world, and that's actually going to become more strong and powerful in the future. Last thing I want to mention with Three of Swords. Three of Swords upright is my kind of like, at least in this deck, it's my cord cutting card because you see the woman and she's tied to the cord of the heart and she's in pain. In reverse, it's just saying that they really build and take care with their relationships. Think of instead of cutting the cord, you're like mending the cord, and instead of her screaming and in pain, she's like smiling and happy just because it's in reverse. They really mend their relationships from, you know, the ground up. And so the people that stick with them, like their inner circle is like their inner circle. Like it's very rare that those people leave or like, you know, they're very consistent with their relationships. You know, they make sure that the friendships are built on a solid foundation, and they really basically tend to that cord between partners and like people in their life. And something that people can say about them is they feel really connected to them in their heart. Their close friends are like loyal to them, very dedicated, very loyal to them. Almost to the point of like, I mean, this is really extreme, but it's like a ride or die situation where they would kind of like go, you know, just be there for them no matter what. The loyalty is like extreme for this group. Yeah, as far as other things people might say about this person, they might mention that they're like really in tune with world events and very like educated, you know. But at the same time, another thing people might say if they don't see this visionary attitude right off the bat, because sometimes with visionaries, they're looking so far into the future, you know, some people don't quite see it because they're not looking far into the future. So a few people might look at them and think like, okay, well, they're just a little crackpot. They're a little crackpot, or they're a little weird, or they don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. And so that's why they have all these different things going on, because they don't know who they are. But the truth is that they know who they are. It's just who they are changes, right? Who they are has to change, because that's the vision they're projecting into the future. That's they're kind of their own work of art, essentially. Very cool. Very interesting person. If you like that reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like this reading, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here at Cody Tarot, so it'd be great to have you. And with that said, we're going to move on to group 6. Yeah, group 6 with the Chrysoprase. Hey, group 6. This is if you picked the Chrysoprase. Let me show you your... if you picked this green color right here, it's Chrysoprase, and it says, I open up and allow myself to be nurtured, nurturing. So for today, well, I already picked the Oracle cards, right? We have Trickster and Badger Spirit. And then I'm going to draw your tarot cards right now, and then we're going to get into your reading. Feeling to drawing all of these back to back to back, so we'll draw all 5 off the one top of the pile. Okay. Your tarot cards are King of Swords, 8 of Wands, 6 of Swords. This card is haunting me this reading. I don't know what it is. This card has been in so many groups. I'm pretty sure like every single group has gotten this card. 2 of Swords and the Chariot reversed. Wow. I should just title these readings the 6 of Swords readings, because really there's just yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's get into your reading. So first of all, we have the Trickster card, which says transcending convention, stuffiness, and predictable behavior. Your future spouse, one thing people notice about them is that they have a very like trickster mentality, where they have this, with transcending convention, stuffiness, and predictable behavior, they kind of like go against the status quo to introduce a sense of novelty into their surroundings. And that's something that people kind of like about them. They kind of like this kind of fun, playful trickster attitude, They might actually play actual tricks on people, and people are just kind of like, they get like upset by it at first, but then they're like, overall, they just love this person and their vibe, because it's almost like a humorous type vibe. They like the tricks that they play because they're very much like, they transcend kind of like the status quo, and it kind of creates a little shock wave into the humdrum existence of daily life, where everything kind of like boring and drab. They kind of make things a little bit fun, more exciting by playing these tricks on people. With Chrysoprase, it says, I open up and allow myself to be nurtured. This is something that's interesting about them. People notice that this person doesn't mind letting themselves be nurtured and taken care of. If you pick this pile and you're a very nurturing person, well, I mean, this is your future spouse, but if you're a very nurturing person, that's just double confirmation that you picked the right pile. Because if you really do the most for your friends, take care of them, nurture them, make sure they have everything, all their needs met and stuff like that, this is definitely someone that's going to be really good for you. And especially if you're also someone with be fearless and bold, people notice that this person is really brave and courageous. When they need to stand up for themselves or stand up for someone else, they really do it. They're not afraid to like, put themselves in harm's way to protect those they love. They're not afraid to kind of, how do I put this? They're just very courageous. That's the best way to put it, is they really have this attitude where if someone they care about or they love is in trouble, they stand up and fight for that person. They're definitely the type of person who, even though they really like take a back seat and kind of like when it comes to the daily things of life, like as far as like all the elements of like taking care of themselves, they might need more of like a caregiver personality to like help them get through a lot of the daily activities of life. When it comes to the extreme situations in life, when it comes to like really taking charge and acting with being fearless and bold in different situations, when it's an emergency, basically, they step up to the plate and they take care of everything that needs to get done. They're definitely really good in that department. And they also have this like very fun, playful, with Trickster right above 8 of Wands. They have a very quick wit. They're really hilarious. They play tricks on people, which is like part of their like how do I put this? Part of their charm, I guess you could say. And people really like this about them. This personality, there's not too many negative things that people say about them. There's sort of some negative things right here. But other than that, people really like your future spouse. Like, they don't really have too many negative things to say about them. It's a lot of like positivity stuff that they have to say. But we have kind of a situation here with these 3 cards, and this is kind of like a situation that your future spouse falls into that people can so easily, they can very easily see this about your future spouse. With 2 of Swords right here, this represents being pulled in different directions by 2 opposing thoughts, right? The birds are kind of have these, this is woman basically, she's blindfolded because she can't think straight. She can't even see because she has these 2 thoughts that are kind of pulling her in different directions, right? And the thoughts are tying her up in knots, tying her up and kind of keeping her grounded. And that's what this Chariot in reverse represents. It's kind of doubly confirmed here because the Chariot in general with willpower represents having to pull 2 different forces, a light and a dark force, into one unified direction to create the willpower. And one of the things here with her is like having these 2 thoughts being pulled in different directions in the Chariot, it just indicates that they get frozen by this attitude. So as soon as they have a lot of different thoughts that they have to work through, or as soon as they have a lot of different like perspectives that they have to reconcile, they get kind of blinded and they slow down and they get sluggish and they get less motivated to like do the things in their life, you know? What they really need is, and what their friends realize they need, but sometimes their friends can't provide this, is they need someone to help them work through their thoughts and kind of like disentangle them one by one and kind of figure out what thought goes against what thought, which thoughts are pulling against each other, which thoughts can work together, and kind of, they need help organizing their thoughts, basically organizing and structuring their thoughts in their internal world so they can move on once again. And what I see here with the 6 of Swords is actually once these thoughts are organized, they become powerful motivators for change. So friends really notice with this person, like their friends will notice that like they've like been stuck, you know, thinking about a specific thing, and they've really like gotten down in the dumps as far as like how those thoughts are like intermingling in their own mind, you know, and they get really confused and conflicted. But then maybe like a week later or something, they come back to them and they've unified these thoughts. They somehow take 2 opposing thoughts and put them together in one like sentence or one phrase that where they kind of coexist, and they're able to make those work to their advantage and get this Chariot flipped upright. And what we see here with the 6 of Swords, they slowly start moving out of this phase of kind of like working through their thoughts. They can move out of this phase and they can let their thoughts, as we see here with the birds, are actually pulling this boat. They let their thoughts actually guide them and pull them along and help motivate them. So that's something quite interesting about when they're actually getting in a sluggish mentality or their energy's pretty low. It's just because they need to work through some opposing thoughts and get them unified in one direction. It's kind of like it's pulling their personality in multiple different directions, and they need that unification to keep moving forward. With the King of Swords over here, with all these like avian creatures, this person definitely really gets along with people who let their kind of like, the phrase that's coming to mind is freak flag fly, but at the same time, I'm not seeing that as much as I'm seeing, well, I am seeing that because with the predicting, like stuffiness and predictable behavior and going against the status quo to like create those fun antics and stuff, this person definitely has that kind of attitude of like, you know, but the thing is this person's kind of like the king of the flyers, basically. And the thing is with flying creatures, it's they can go wherever they want. They have a lot of freedom and latitude to kind of just experience whatever and whenever they want. There's a lot of spontaneity with this pile, I guess you could say. And this person's kind of like the centerpiece of these people who kind of fly around and do whatever they want, you know? They have a lot of friends who have... And that's the one thing their friends like about them too, is their friends like the fact that they let them kind of go wherever, do whatever. They're not that controlling. They're not that restrictive. They kind of have a I can fly so you can fly mentality. Yeah, I think for those of you who pick this pile and you're really resonating with this as being one of a person that would be right for you, and you have that nurturing quality, or maybe you don't realize it yet, but you do have like an underlying nurturing capacity. Part of that nurturing with this kind of getting them to collect their thoughts, they really need to be walked through step by step in a kind of nurturing, caring way of like how to reorganize their thoughts to get them motivated again. And I'm definitely their friends realize this too, and the people in their life, and I'm saying their friends too, because I definitely see this person is not really talked about too much by acquaintances or people outside their friend group. It's really only their friends that make these connections with them, because a lot of these things are really, I mean, I can see a lot of acquaintances seeing them as a trickster from the outside, seeing them maybe catching them in the act of playing a prank or something, or knowing that they're quick-witted. But as far as standing up for others with this badger spirit, being fearless and bold, their friends really know that this person's really going to come to bat for them whenever the going gets tough, you know? They just kind of need that kind of nurturing walkthrough of their inner thoughts, and to like help them kind of disambiguate what's kind of what directions is kind of attacking them at whatever given time. Very cool. I think that's about it for this reading. We have 2 more groups ahead of us, but if you like this reading, like or comment below. If you really like this reading, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We are always welcoming new subscribers here. With that said, we're going to move on to group 7 with the Aquamarine. Hey, group 7, this is if you picked the Aquamarine. I'll show you your card right here. You picked that crystal, and it's Aquamarine, and it says, I communicate with ease and grace. I'm going to pull some tarot cards for your pile, but before we do that, we have your oracle cards, Alchemist and Flamingo Spirit. And once I get the tarot cards out on the table, we will get into your reading. I know I draw kind of random. I put the cards out randomly. It's part of how my intuition works. Okay, let's flip over your cards. We have the 3 of Swords. We have the Knight of Wands. We have the King of Wands. We have the 9 of Wands. We have the 4 of Pentacles reversed. Okay, let's get into your pile, or what your future spouse, what people say about them. So first of all, one thing I'm saying, well, first of all, with Alchemist, transformation of base motives and goals into golden wisdom. This is really key here, because this person takes different materials and transforms them into something else. And people kind of see this about them, and they have this ability to do this. So people might notice this person, you know, this could be, for example, I'm going to use the example of a chef here, because this could really apply to anything. But for example, if this person was a chef, they would be able to take basic raw ingredients that, you know, most people wouldn't think could make this really amazing, delicious dish, and combine them together and create this like perfect, harmonious, you know, delicious to the palate like meal that like just is like unbelievable. And people are like, how did you do that? You know, and they can do it without a recipe. They can do it without any kind of like cookbook or something like that. They basically have this wherewithal to kind of transform these base materials into golden products, basically. And that also can be with transformation of, it says motives and wisdom. It can also be dealing with like other people and their desires and stuff, and kind of like figuring out like, okay, this person has this person has this, and this person has this, and they're all kind of these types of people. What would like this group activity be like? Or what would this group activity like create? And that would create this kind of sense of wisdom that could create kind of like a values or structure for that particular group. One thing with I communicate with ease and grace and embrace the in-between, this person is a great communicator, and people really mention that about them. They say, wow, they really have a way with words. They know how to speak like very, very well, basically. And with Flamingo Spirit, they might have a very unique sense of style, a unique way they dress. The other thing too here with Knight of Wands, this is a very playful person. People are always commenting on how playful they are, how loving they are, lighthearted they are. One thing that people mention about them, one of the things that's kind of interesting is that people mention that have known them and then like got kind of cut out of their life, because this people will cut people out of their life if they're bad for them. I've noticed here with the 3 of Swords and the 9 of Wands, we have this kind of pattern that happens with this person, where on one hand, with the 3 of Swords, We have this person who needs to do some cord cutting to get some people out of their life who are kind of like causing them pain or making them suffer or something like that. But on the other hand, we have a person who stays too long in relationships and tries to make it work at all costs. You know, the Nine of Wands here just shows that this person really wants to make their relationships work and kind of stays at them for too long. The Knight of Wands is kind of this card that especially in the traditional tarot where he's like bandaged up and he's stuck at this post. I see this as kind of like an endurance card, being at somewhere too long or like having to hold out for a longer period of time. So the thing is, for this person, even though some people might feel like they were left behind, this person really had been struggling with maybe a destructive relationship. I don't think these people would say that this person would call them destructive. It's just that they knew that this was kind of a destructive relationship. So they had to do some cord cutting to preserve their own sense of self. I really see that this cord cutting and sense of self for their closer friends, the people that know their patterns and stuff. With the Knight of Wands coming into the King of Wands, what they started out with is having a very playful nature. They grow into this kind of like go-getter attitude, right? Where they're ready to commit to a project at the blink of an eye, right? This is the type of person who starts out their life as kind of like playful, fun-loving, happy, very positive, and then ends up their life kind of being slightly more serious, still playful and fun-loving, but ends their life being kind of slightly more serious. I guess you could say a little more hardened, and also ready to like do something at the drop of a hat. So if someone has a favor to ask, or they're saying, man, I really need to get this, boom, they're doing it. They're already on it, you know? With the lion in the background, we have the horse in the background here. You can think of these transitions between these two different animals. You have, on one hand, a horse that's galloping, elegant, you know, playful nature, and then the lion who's more of like a predator, ready to like attack a problem or get on or move towards something with almost like a beeline efficiency. This person also with the Four of Pentacles is very generous. This person's very generous and very sharing and caring is their vibe, basically. They have this attitude that like, there's always going to be enough. You know, there's always going to be enough, and they can always provide enough, and there's always will be enough. And one of the things too with Embrace the In-Between, the Flamingo Spirit, that I'm noticing here is that they're also not afraid to embrace different periods of transition in their life. Like, for example, if they run out of money, they're not afraid to embrace having to like live in a more regimented or frugal way for the time being until they make money to move to the next stage of life again. They're okay with these ups and downs that are in life, or these in-between stages between different periods of life. Some people with chapters of their life like to set things up where when one chapter closes, the next one opens, and then the next one opens after that one closes, you know. But with the Flamingo Spirit, Embrace the In-Between, they are aware that sometimes a connection from the past can come into the future. Sometimes a connection that you meet now in the present, it could show itself up in the future as like a best friend material then, when really it was just a stranger at this point in time. This is kind of giving me vibes that a lot of people who pick this pile, there is a chance that some of you actually already know this person as being your future spouse, and your future spouse kind of just, because they're in this state of evolution, right? They're evolving from this Knight of Wands into this King of Wands. Because they're in this state of evolution, they might not be ready to be your future spouse at this point, but at a future point or a different time, they might come back into your life and be really ready to be your future spouse. Trying to think if I see anything else. Yeah, the thing that the first example that came up to me here with the Alchemist is this sense of like a chef or some kind of it's like a vibe of someone who mixes with materials. This person could also be somewhat of a craftsman. They could work with like wood or clay or something like that. They could be an artist and they could mix different materials into their artwork. They could even be kind of like a social experimenter where they mix together different like friend groups to see what different friend groups create. You know, they can create a vibe with a friend group based. This is the type of person who's kind of like when they go to a party and stuff, they're very selective about who they invite out. They basically could be like, okay, I want to invite him, her, and him. And then this is the group that I want to create because that's going to create this vibe that I'm looking for. So this person people might point out about them that kind of like selective in their activities or who they invite. You know, some people might actually feel excluded, and I'm seeing that again here with the Three of Swords, is there's this element of being excluded or being cut off from the group or cut off from their life. But really the truth of the matter is, and what a lot of people will tell you that have been their friend, who've been on the outside but then were brought back into the like later in the future, this person, it's not just about like cutting you off and you're done, right? It's about making sure that they're in the best growth oriented mindset at the time that they're in, you know? So other people can come into their life in the future. It just means that they have to probably learn some lessons, you know, or they have to create a different group vibe or a different chemistry where all the people in the group can get along and create this new different group vibe that's going to help fuel their personality and fuel the personality of everyone else. Like I said, this person's a great communicator, so I don't see them having too many issues in interpersonal relationships just because they're so good at communicating their feelings and expressing what their needs are and realizing what other people's needs are, and they're just really good at communicating all of that. Yeah, this person is really generous and they just have like an attitude where they don't mind sharing with people around them. Wow, you have a pretty cool person on your hands. If you like that reading, if you like this reading, like or comment below. If you really like this reading, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here at Cody Tarot. With that said, we're going to move on to our last group, Group 8 with the Moonstone. Thank you guys for watching. Hey, Group 8, this is if you picked the Moonstone card. It looks like that. And on the back it says, Moonstone, I'm in the divine flow of my soul and all life's rhythms. Let's see, and we're going to pick your tarot cards right now. Shuffling and drawing. Your oracle cards are Judge and Canary Spirit. I'll get into those in a second, right after we draw your tarot cards, and we'll get into the reading. Okay. So your tarot cards are, you have Temperance in reverse, and then you have the Empress upright, Judgment upright, Knight of Cups upright, and Page of Pentacles upright. Okay, let's get into your pile. So first things first, with Canary Spirit and Judgment, the Judgment card upright, your future spouse, the thing people talk about them and they say is they mention that your future spouse always follows their heart or always follows their own voice. One thing that I was thinking about when I first opened this pile or when I first got this pile is that your future spouse might be somewhat logical or somewhat kind of like unemotional in how they make decisions. But at the same time, it comes from a place of themselves. They're not going to focus on outside factors to help make their decisions. They really focus on what their true calling is or what their future is. Right here it says, I am in the divine flow of my soul rhythms and all life cycles. Their own flow of their internal self kind of creates their judgment and path forward. This is a very independently focused person. This person makes judgments all on their own without any outside influences factoring in. They definitely are a very, I want to say solitary person, but at the same time, there are some elements here that show a little bit more of their extroverted qualities. One thing here with Judge, balancing justice and compassion, managing the fair distribution of power. This is the type of person who can't stand unfairness. This is the type of person who everything has to be fair and equal. If one person has more power than another person in a group situation, they make sure to like get involved and make sure that everyone's being treated fairly, that no one gets an advantage over anyone else. At the same time, with the Temperance card in reverse, this is just indicating that they can't always affect the world this way. They can't always make sure every single thing is fair, but they definitely try 100% in the areas that they have control over to make sure that those things are fair, that everything is fair for those around them. Yeah, especially with this Temperance card in reverse. This is a very spiritual person, and especially with Temperance, they know that there's an element of light and dark, and there's an interplay between them. So they also know that not always are the scales going to be completely balanced. Even if you look at this Judge card, the woman here has the scales totally tilted in different directions, and she's actually pulling up the one that's already being up, that's already up. So this is this kind of attitude that they know the scales, it's not just black and white. And this is kind of a message to those of you watching this pile. They're aware that it's not just black and white. The scales aren't just, just to be, it's, in order to be fair, it's not just about making sure one person gets more advantages than the next person. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into fairness that kind of fluctuate and are kind of always going on at the same time. They know it's mercurial. The idea of fairness is mercurial and kind of is all over the place sometimes. But the thing is one thing that really helps them through these situations is they always follow their own voice. They always follow their own own thoughts on this. When they do act, it is in the position of being fair to others or redistributing the fairness between different people. So their friends always are going to see them as very fair-minded, very reasonable, and sometimes very logical, even though I'm also sensing that they also are a very heart-oriented person as well with Sing Your Own Song and Judgment. They always follow their true north, their true inner calling, their true sense of judgment from within, not from outside factors. Another thing with the Empress card, people love to talk about how beautiful this person is. They're just like, whoa, aren't they just gorgeous? They're so attractive. And the Empress card is just indicating that this person's very attractive. And also they have kind of like that sort of sex appeal that makes them seem kind of fertile, or like, how do I put this? They just seem also like, on top of being like sexy or vivacious, they also seem like they are going to be a good mother or a good father figure. They have kind of a nurturing side to them underlying. Even though I'm sensing some more masculine energy to this person, there is a sense of like nurturingness that's beneath the surface of their nature. With Knight of Cups, this person is very, very romantic. They're the type of person who's going to take you to the movies with the flowers and like, look at this guy. He actually has flowers. And they're the type of person who's going to set up little like dates for you. I can definitely see like candlelit dinners, really nice romantic music. There's a sense of a classic romance from like another time period. This is the type of future spouse, and if you pick this pile, you might be the type of person who likes certain styles from the past or a certain romantic time period. And this person's really gonna like live with you on that level and kind of create an environment around you where there's like that sense of old-timey classical romance. And I definitely view that from there are people that view them, people especially that have dated them really respect the fact that they're very respectful in relationships and they're very like sensitive and caring in relationships as well. With Page of Pentacles here, one thing that they like to do for fun, but it's not necessarily a whole part of their personality, but they really like working with money for fun. They really like starting new business projects and new kind of like opportunities to make money. And they really enjoy kind of like dabbling in that. They might not actually do it all the time, but every once in a while they might come up with some kind of business idea or small little project that they want to like work on. This is kind of how they express their fun side, and their friends kind of see them as very entrepreneurial, but at the same time there's this whole attitude where their friends also, they see some of these ideas as a little too far out there. So they might say like, okay, they come up with a lot of fun ideas to make money and stuff, but some of these ideas are a little too far out there. Even so, even if the ideas are too far out there, there is this element that they are good with money, because we do have the Page of Pentacles upright, which indicates that a lot of these projects can get off the ground or do get off the ground, and they do make a good money off of them. One thing I'm noticing here, just off the top of my head, is that there is a flute here. There might be an element that's kind of musical about this person that people are kind of tuned into, that they might have like a way with music, or music might be important to them, especially with the Knight of Cups. I'm definitely sensing kind of like music, like I don't know why Frank Sinatra's coming to mind, or music from like kind of like music from like the 1940s or 1930s, music from that time era is coming to mind, something that they might like to listen to. Yeah, the thing is they really follow their heart. They really follow their own opinions on things. They don't listen to group advice. They're really protected from group influence. So a lot of people really respect that about this person. So their friends might say like, oh, I'm glad they're here, they exist, because I can always go to them to get a true opinion of what they believe, you know? They're not going to be influenced by group dynamics. You know, they're not the type to go with the group to the point where sometimes when you go with the group too much, the group can have kind of like a negative attitude over like certain individuals because the whole group like agrees on one specific thing. And this is the type of person who's always going to stand firm and resolved to themselves and kind of keep everything fair and balanced from that individual viewpoint outward. Very cool. I think that's about it for this pile. So if you like that reading, you can like or comment below. If you really like this reading, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. We're always welcoming new subscribers here. And with that said, that was the last reading. I really enjoyed reading for you guys. I will see you in the next pick a card. Bon voyage.